Happy post New Year's Day, everybody. I hope everybody's weekend and holidays have gone spectacular and you're enjoying just a little bit last of the holiday season before we get into the beginning of the New Year grind, especially with those New Year's resolutions I bet everybody, myself included, has committed to. Something we have not covered yet because my holidays have been completely swamped is we had a game last week, and while I was able to do pregame, this is the first opportunity I've had to do a postgame. So I want to ask everybody who's watching this a question. If you had the opportunity to right a wrong from the past, would you take the opportunity to do so? I think everybody has that answer as a yes for that. But now let's narrow this down to sports. In sports, everyone has that what if moment that could have changed the outcome of a game, especially in like championship matches where you may have second guessed yourself or you wish like maybe like a fumble didn't occur, something like that. In a rare occurrence, Bob Stoops got that opportunity to right the wrong against Oregon last week in the Alamo Bowl. Sure, it's not the same players, it's not the same coaches, but still, for one night only, Sooner Nation got to enjoy seeing Bob coach one more time. This may not go down as a top 30 game. Heck, it may not even go down as a top 50 game. But this one, at least amongst Sooner Nation, as well as Sooner lore, this one's going to mean a lot to a bunch of people out there, including Bob. After a month's worth of turmoil and chaos that we've had to endure, especially with the future being so uncertain, especially in such a short amount of time. Me personally, it was this last chance to see the coach that made me love Sooner football coach one more time. He was also my undergrad coach at OU. I know that's kind of crazy to think of being like a 10-year-old and undergrad, and it was still the same coach. Regardless, it was special to see Bob coach one more time for that. You don't see that, so it was very very special. I think for Sooner Nation as well, this was also exercising the demons from the past month, and from 15 years ago against Oregon, a game which we all know should have won. Now, let's narrow down and talk about the game itself. We got to give kudos to Stoops for keeping most of the players together for that bowl game, as well as kudos for the fans showing up. Yeah, we had a couple guys opt out. We had a couple guys prepare for the NFL, but for mostly intact compared to Oregon, we had a lot of our core units still playing at this point. Directly about the offense basically could score at will all Wednesday night. Kennedy Brooks had himself a night for sure. He had 142 yards with 3 touchdowns. We saw a Marcus Major sighting, and we were able to see him actually get some carries, which leads into later questions of why he wasn't getting any carries or why we weren't doing any bounces, but that's later for this video. Not only did the running backs get some action, we also got to see the receivers do really well. Mario Williams had a TD that was called back against him because they ripped his helmet off, and it's a bad rule. I get it because it was a penalty, but there was nobody around him. They should have had the opportunity to decline that and call that a touchdown. That's just my personal opinion at that point. Marvin Mims also had a great touchdown catch, and something we'll cover a sec here, kind of as the overall feelings of the game. Drake Stoops also got to get a touchdown while his dad coached. That was special and what everybody was hoping that would play out, and we're very, very happy that it actually did while Bob was coaching the team. We even got to see some of the new faces with Farouk. He made a couple of great catches and stuff as well, and they're the future of the team. So it's good to see them out in the field and getting some reps and everything like that as well. With the offense as well, I couldn't go without mentioning to Gray. He's had a pretty lackluster year, but in this game, he actually had a very, very solid game. That's kind of what we expected from Eric Gray kind of through the past year. Same with Jeremiah Hall. Jeremiah Hall had a very solid game as well for it. Caleb himself, he passed for 3 touchdowns, and he got unfortunately for Tebow out west, he actually got to speak for the press for the first time ever at this point. Outside of that, they did kind of struggle in the fourth quarter, but I think what they wanted to do after the second half and knowing that they could have scored at will, they just wanted to run the clock out at this point. They weren't doing any decisive plays. Like if they really needed to, they could have amped it up again, but they did not. The only other thing I want to speak on is speaking of struggling, like I think the burrito did curse Burkick. For those of you who don't know, earlier in the season, Burkick received an NIL deal from a restaurant to basically kick a burrito for it to promote their business. Well, since he's kicked that burrito, he hasn't really been the same since then. He's missed a lot, and there's a lot of chip shots that he would miss. we still all enjoy the running joke that he can make a field goal out 90 yards away, but can't make a chip shot 30 yards out, which we probably should delay the game to give him a better shot at this point. Regardless, Burkick has kind of a shaky game in the beginning, but then finished out with a solid outing at that point. The only other thing of note I can think of is Theo I thought was going to play. He did not. And I'm unsure if Bray Walker did. I think he did with that. But that's kind of the offense. Looking at the defense also did pretty well in the first half. And again, they got kind of sloppy and fell apart in the second half with it. Because again, I think they just wanted to run the clock out at that point. They knew they could stop anything at will for it if they really needed to attempt to. Pat Fields led the team with 6 tackles, followed by Woody Washington and Stutzman. We also got to see a lot of new names out there, including Deshaun White, Corey Robinson, Shane Witter, LaRon Strokes, and just a couple other guys at this point. Again, they're the future of the team at this point. We don't know where they would be placed, but it's still good to see those young bloods out there getting a lot of reps, especially being able to play in a bowl game with it, a real game with it. DJ got burned a lot. There's not really a whole lot to say at this point. It's just it is what it is with DJ. He just had a rough night. It happens with it, but you have to give credit to Oregon's quarterback for lighting it up at this point. In my opinion, the defense really still did set the tone earlier in the game with Marcus Stripling stripping the ball and causing OU to go up really, really early in the game at this point. Overall, again, this was kind of a so-so game for the defense with it. Only one thing of note is Key Lawrence got hurt. I still don't know if what his extent of his injury was or if he even came back into the game at this point. I think they set him out, but I don't know. I still could not find anything even a couple days later at that point with it. So that kind of covers OU at this point. If you're still with me, Oregon, hey, kudos to Oregon. Most other teams would have bowed out and did not want to play this game because they were out so many players. But kudos to Oregon for sticking together with it. And they really did try to make this game work for both sides of it. So lots of respect for them for that, for, not leaving the fans out, leaving them high and dry with it, especially as they could have canceled. And they did pretty decent too. Their quarterback got 306 yards passing, and he also, Travis Dye, rushed for 153 yards. So they did have some good key players still playing in this particular bowl game with it. I will say, they did give us some PTSD when they went for the onside kick. We did recover it. Like, they were pretty confident this was going to happen, as they were very much prepared for any onside kicks that were happening. Personally, I still think Bob should have done that sometime during the game, even though that's not in his character to do so. I think that should have just been more of that karma that has circled back around that should have came back around. Just basically, in short, they were outmatched. They were in over their heads, especially with Bob at the helm at this point. And someone put it basically, when you take both OU situation and Oregon situation, you combine, you almost have what a lot of people said of direct-to-TV movie or an individual book, just of how everything played out at this point. We all got the special moment that we were hoping for with Drake Stoops catching the football for a touchdown, and when he went to the sidelines, Bob basically gave him a bear hug and cheered him on. Remember, Drake and Isaac, his twin brother, were babies when Bob was hired in 1998. So I really hope one day that whoever the local shops around here have a picture that I can get an autograph with Bob and Drake on it. It's such a cool moment in OU history for that, and you don't see that a whole lot from that, especially since Drake was a walk-on. That's just kind of cool to me. That's something I was hoping for. In addition, Kale also called a very solid game, which is what we were kind of expecting under Tebow all season. The run and pass game was very well balanced, as all things should be, and Kale basically stuck to the basics. He established the run game to open up the passing game to do the long bombs at this point. He kept the offense honest at this point and kept the defense honest. As well as, too, because a lot of people always seem to forget that the assistant coaches are usually the ones caught in the middle on this. It just meant to the other coaches as well to coach for these players one more time, especially Kane and Odom. They return. They have personal relationships with these players. So to see them stick it through to the end before they go on to their next coaching jobs and their next adventures and opportunities, they were able to have that one more time with them as well. A lot of them, again, forget that it's just, they're like the players. Like, they're just as much shock as players are when those big news come out. Couldn't go without mentioning Bob got over the hump, and he finally has a positive bowl record and a .799 win percentage. Like, that's just a monumental thing. That's kind of impressive with that, regardless of who it is. Me personally, if I took a step back and looked at the bowl game, it was just nice seeing Bob living in the moment. He was cracking jokes. He was observing the sideline. He even cracked a joke about them pouring a bottle or two of his tequila into the Gatorade, and just enjoying the scene, being able to do that one more time. We even got more of that with Bob passing the visor on to Venables. That was just, there's just no words to describe it. It for sure made me emotional seeing like that official passing of the torch from Bob to Venables. We never got that with Lincoln. It was so sudden with Lincoln. It was just, it kind of happened, but we had kind of the pomp and circumstance with it, and we got that with Bob. And I'm glad Bob got that closure as well as Venables got that welcome for it at this point. Again, finally, this was just a special game for the fans. Sure, we got revenge for Oregon and it ended the year, however, on a positive note. But we also got to officially and formally say farewell with Bob. Remember, it was pretty sudden when he retired, and like I just said a couple minutes ago, it was very, very kept quiet. And unless you kind of went to that Bedlam game, the one where Samaje Need against OSU, and I believe it was the Sugar Bowl after that versus Auburn. I think it was that one. No one really gave Bob a proper farewell. It was just kind of, he was ready to hang his visor up and move on. So this was kind of a love letter to the fans at that point of, as well, of being able to tell Bob thank you so much for everything he's done for the program and how much they appreciate him as well. Again, there's only so much you can garner from this game, from it. But that being said, there was two things I did want to point out before I wrap up this video. Is, you know how I mentioned earlier how Kale had his very solid game plan? It just asks the question, what the hell was Riley doing all season? It only gives the credibility that Riley had his foot out the door in early September, and possibly even more so, maybe even earlier than that. It was just so night and day how this team came out prepared, ready to tackle, ready to make plays. Yeah, they made a couple mistakes, but they were able to adjust accordingly with it. You just got to feel for those guys as well of what could have been if their coach was actually paying attention and cared. Um, again, using Marvin Mims as the example, you have to wonder why Riley kept on basically calling very, very conservative game plans, as well as not letting Mims return the ball and just letting it go over his head, sail over it, or doing fair catches with it. It did the team no favors, and Marvin Mims does have the ability for that. Did he just not trust his other receivers, like the running back room? I don't know. I don't know. Your questions are as good as mine at this point. Still, at the end of the day, this may not be a top 10 game, maybe not even a top 20, but there is certainly a special place for the Sooners for this particular one. It shows that Bob really is truly the heart of the program. And he's going to go down in Sooner history. This may be his finest moment just in general. I've said it in the past month that Bob is just not a good person and a coach, but he is a good person and that he genuinely cares beyond just the game. He cares about the players, he cares about the admin, he cares about the fans. He understands everyone's a person. He is just a good person. So, me personally, I just want to give this message. Thank you, Bob, for everything you've done for us. You helped calm the waters and guide us when things were just looking pretty hectic and pretty uncertain and just no light at the end of the tunnel. Have fun on returning to the golf courses again. I hope you get a hole in one at some opportunity, and we do really hope to see you around a whole lot, and not just like as a official capacity or like a mentor, or well, not necessarily a mentor, but just seeing you around the program. We hope you see you around, and I'm also glad that you're able to just have fun that night and just live in the moment and being able to take that opportunity to do so with it. All right, guys, with that all being said, thank you again for joining me this season. This was my first season returning to vlogging, and it was just a blast connecting with everyone, from returning and just saying hi to people that I vlogged with over 10 years ago, having people on live streams, responding to comments, being at the games, living in the moment, as I mentioned, taking video. It was just very, very fun. This may have not been the season and the way that we wanted it to go, but there's still a few diamonds in the rough to celebrate this season, and we only get football one time a year with it. You gotta take everything you can get at this point with it. That all being said, I have a couple more videos planned to kind of wrap up this season, and a couple more live streams as well. Some extra content I need to upload from the season, from like my videos and stuff, such as individual plays or games that I attended, and just some housekeeping on like some information, like description stuff as well, and putting stuff on playlists for it. But other than that, we are officially, guys, in the offseason and in the Brent Venables era. It's crazy to think about, but we are officially here at this point, and I'm looking forward to every opportunity that Brent has for us. At the end of the day, there's still a lot of unknowns going into Brent's kind of new head coaching gig at this point. We still are seeing out who is declaring for the draft at this point. There's a couple guys out since Wednesday that have declared. Um, Whether Williams is going to stick around or if he's going to transfer to somewhere else. We know there's possibly maybe some teams that are interested in him, but he wanted to take a break first. What will second signing day bring us? Will we get any couple surprises or get any players that we were really going for even when Riley was here? The Under Armour game, which I think is occurring today with it, I think so. I think regardless, there's still commitments from that game as well. And just kind of what does Venables have in mind for what he wants his program to look at, which again, we will cover in future content, but we'll be creating a brand new playlist for like kind of the 2021, 22 off season at this point, which will cover a lot of that at that point with it. But again, at the end of the day, let's take a moment to celebrate the result and wrap up the year at this point. Football only comes once a year, guys, and despite it only being 4 months on it, it's crazy to think that this will be kind of the last time we see these players on the field, both for the ones that are declaring until for the college field for some that's declaring for the NFL draft, and for others until at least April, if there is a spring game, COVID permitting at this point with it, or all the way in September when we face Texas El Paso on September 3rd, 2022, with Brent Venables' debut game, which I expect to be a crazy game at this point already with it. That all being said, guys, comment, rate, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so when I go live on Sundays and sometimes Wednesdays, y'all will be the first to know. Be sure to tune in tonight for sure, as we are going to recap the Alamo Bowl and just the kind of the 2021 season as a whole. As I have planned right now, it's going to be a packed house with it, so I really, really hope everyone tunes in and makes this one of the best videos yet. I can't do this without you guys, so again, I appreciate all the things that y'all do, such as tuning in, commenting, everything like that. So, guys, again, I hope everyone had a very happy new year. And, guys, remember, there's only one. OU flag guy out for the 2021 season. Well, almost out. Just one more thing. Don't let this distract you from the fact that OU beat Oregon in the Alamo Bowl, that Bob Stoops was back before Texas was back.